Dude, the book's literally got 200 uses of the N-words. Today's video is brought to you by Ground News. More on them in just a bit. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brain Blaze. As always, I'm your host Simon. Welcome to the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Books that were banned for bonkers reasons. Yes, yes, yes. All very excited. Sorry, I don't know why I'm being sarcastic. It's Monday morning. Give me a break. I'm just getting into it. If you're new here, format is Danny writes me a script. I'm going to read it and Sam is going to add some fine vintage memes. Couldn't remember his name there for a second. Just joking, Sam. I love you.
Lies. Oh, lies!
Mankind has been banning and burning books pretty much ever since we learned how to write and bind them together. And in a classic case of the Streisand effect in full and glorious motion, this only makes us more likely to hunt down the forbidden text and take a nosy at the shockingly subversive material which has been declared unfit for human consumption. In many cases, the censors are keen to shield our fragile minds from absorbing potentially offensive or dangerous material. But there are other strange sagas in which it seems that the plot was well and truly lost before we even reached the final chapter. Yeah, I do feel like, look, if there's a book and you don't like it, if you ban it, it's just going to get into the news and people are going to be like, why are you banning this book? And other people are going to be, I'm curious about this book, and then everyone's reading this book. And the next thing you know, I don't know, they're all subscribing to whatever idea is in the book. I don't know, is that how it works? Ground News lets you quickly compare thousands of articles from different sources across the world and all the different political spectrums all in one place, which allows you to see how many different sources are reporting on a topic and whether they're leaning left, leaning right, or center. And yeah, it's like you go onto the website or use the app and it's got this like great graph and it's just like, you know, this is being covered by 90% left wing or 90% right wing, or sometimes it falls directly in the center. They also give you information such as if the source is known for being factual and who they are owned by. You can also compare the wording of headlines to see the same story reported by different news outlets. So don't worry about living in an echo chamber again. Just go to ground.news/brainblaze and try it for yourself. It'll really up-level your news reading experience and also support an independent news platform on a mission to make the media landscape more transparent. Just go to ground.news/brainblaze. And now today's video. Where's Waldo? What? The book where you look for the dude with the stripy shirt? Here in the UK, we know him as, oh yeah, we also know him as Wally. It's not. American culture is so pervasive. You're like, yeah, where's Waldo? And then you just, oh, you know, it is Wally. I don't know, what's wrong with Waldo? Wally. Wally's kind of sounds like, you know, we'd call someone a Wally. It sounds very Australian, doesn't it? Like Wally. But it's what we call someone who's a bit, you know, silly. You know, you're a bit of a Wally, aren't you? It's not offensive. It's sort of the thing you'd say to a child. Like, why am I explaining this? I don't need to explain. Let's just get on with the bloody video. Jesus. Fascinating tangent, Simon. Let's carry on. The Americans prefer to call him Waldo, the Germans call him Walter, and the Norwegians call him Willy. Cock. I'm sure we all recognize the same bespectacled character in the striped shirt and the bobble hat who hides in the colorfully cluttered illustrations of the best-selling children's puzzle books, waiting for the readers to pick him out in each chaotic and exotic location. But there was one particular beach scene from the original Where's Wally book, which didn't even cause the faintest ripple when the book was first released in the UK in 1987. Please tell me there was a nude person drawn in. Please tell me there was a penis.
I know exactly what you're looking for. Is it a long, hard...
Just stop. Just stop it. Stop. No. Just stop it.
Yet it caused a tidal wave of controversy when Wally became Waldo for the American editions released in the early 1990s. Was this a British thing that was first? So it was Wally first and then the Americans stole him? And by stole, I mean there was probably like a complicated license agreement and different publishers and stuff, so it was legit. I don't want to imply they stole it. I'm just saying. God save the Queen. Oh, God save the King. And the Queen. And a moldy body. American editions released in the early 90s. What? That's not a sentence. Did I just read that as a sentence? Oh, God, it's such a big brain. The illustration dared to include what appears to be a topless woman getting pranked on a packed beach. Now, before we get too carried away, we're not talking about graphic nudity here. Of course we're not. It's going to be, well, even like cartoon nudity is not appropriate in a children's book. The sunbathing woman is depicted only from the back. That's fine. Is it in a children's book? Is that fine? I don't know, I don't feel like I'd have any problem with my kids seeing that. You'd be like, yeah, that's a woman without a shirt on from the back. And
Boobs! I mean, Naruto.
some grotty little kid appears to be throwing an ice cream at her back, which causes her to jump up in surprise and expose herself to a fellow male sunbather who appears to be pleasantly surprised by the view. I mean, it's a little bit cringe, but it's also amusing. If you squint hard enough, you might be able to make out the vaguest hint of side boob with a pinhead nipple. Uh-oh. I mean, then there's a nipple, isn't there? Which is a different game. You probably need a magnifying glass to fully make out the glimpse of the offending cartoon breast, which measured about 1/16 of an inch. But that was much more than enough to send some concerned American parents into a dizzy spin. Dizzy spin, is that a thing? I thought it was like a tizzy fit. What's a dizzy spin? This book was yanked from the Springs Public School Library in 1993 after a young boy pointed out the beach scene Easter egg to his shocked stepmother, who petitioned to have Where's Waldo taken off the shelves. And from that day on, for the rest of his life, that kid was known as Snitchy McSnitchface. The young boy commented to the press, I think it's like, disgusting. Oh, f*** off, who are you? That young boy doesn't exist. That young boy's stepmother is channeling her voice through him for some reason. No young boy would ever say no to side boob.
I like boobies.
Meanwhile, the book was banned from BJ's department store. If you have the initials BJ, why would you open a department store called BJ's? It literally stands for one thing. In New Hampshire, when an outraged parent complained about the unacceptable wardrobe malfunction, she stated, how can they say for ages 5 to 12 and put a naked woman in it? They can have an adult Where's Waldo if they want to. I'm outraged at BJ's department store. BJ's. Perhaps part of the reason why the illustration didn't make much of a splash in the UK is because the laws relating to topless sunbathing on the beach are generally a lot more relaxed here. Or perhaps, we just can't get us worked up about a microscopic pinhead cartoon nipple, which could just as easily have been a crumb dropped onto a page by a clumsy child. But it was clearly too hot for America to handle. The topless sunbather was covered up with a new green bikini top in all future printings of the book. The funny thing is that it's probably not the oddest thing you'll glimpse in a Where's Waldo book. Other illustrations over the years have depicted Waldo hanging out with a whole bunch of topless mermaids. Okay, well, maybe they heard that woman's plea for help, her cry for help, and they were like, wow, that'd be a really good business decision to make an adult version of Where's Waldo. Let's go. Fuck yeah! And people, as we discussed in this, oh my god, people got super upset with, I made a video on this channel about like anime. Manga? Is manga the car? Look, this is how little I care about it. There's the anime, and there's this thing called fan service, where people are like, there's just like boobs popping out of like tiny bikinis and stuff, and it's all very sexualized. And it seems that the people in these are like uncomfortably young being sexualized. And I was like, it's a bit weird, isn't it? And people were like, how can you say this? How as a red-blooded male can you not like cartoon boobies? And all I have to say to that is, I don't know, because real boobies are a thing? It's fucking stupid. I always I never understood this with like Game of Thrones or like nudity in general in like movies and TV shows and stuff. People are like, oh yeah, no, I just watch Game of Thrones for the boobs, and I'm like, have you not heard of pornography? Like, if you want to watch boobs, you can do that a whole lot more. There's a whole industry dedicated to it, let me tell you. I just don't understand, and I'm sure people on this one are going to be like, oh, Simon, that's a bit gay. To which all I could say is like, okay, friends. Other illustrations over the years have depicted Waldo hanging out with a whole bunch of topless men. I read this already. Oh god, but look, there's topless mermaids. Also, how do mermaids work? A human sacrifice about to take place on top of an ancient pyramid, and a man in a fake fur costume is clearly about to get mounted and raped by a very confused leopard. Oh my. It's like that Leonardo DiCaprio movie. That kind of thing doesn't seem to raise an eyebrow with parents, but topless sunbathing, get out of here, Waldo, and stay well lost. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. There are very unmistakable reasons why Mark Twain's 1884 masterpiece, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, could now be considered problematic. Often hailed as the first true American novel, the story tackles racism and slavery as it follows the adventures of young Huck Finn, who befriends runaway slave Jim and joins him on a voyage to potential freedom down the Mississippi River. I've read this book, but it was so long ago. I was a kid when it's the Adventures. Is it a kid's book? It can't be a kid's book, but I definitely read this when I was a kid. That's not to say that it was the first great American novel, but the point is that it was the first major work that dared to include realistic American vernacular and natural language rather than pretend everyone in the world speaks exclusively in flowery English. And it's this language which poses a bit of a problem today. The N-word appears no less than 200 times throughout the text. It was written in the 19th century, wasn't it? I mean, I'm sure there's loads of words we're using today that we're not going to be using in 100 years, and people are going to be like, it was a bit weird we used that word, wasn't it? And I'm like, yeah, but it was the past. There's this thing we do as a society, grow. Hardly helped along by the fact that it's effectively Jim's first name. What? I don't remember that at all. This obviously makes it quite a bit tricky to teach in modern schools, and it has regularly been banned from American curriculum since the 1950s. I don't want to say it's like Mark Twain is obviously a genius, but isn't it okay that we adjust this? Can't you just replace it with N-word in the book? Or is that weird? I don't know, that feels a bit revisionist, doesn't it? Oh my god, there's obviously no right solution here, which is why this is probably an ongoing issue. And I'm obviously not going to come up with a solution to it right now. And in fact, I'm just going to run the risk of getting in trouble somehow for something. I don't know, it's a minefield, isn't it? You just gotta just walk around the minefield, just step that way, which is what I'm gonna do right now and move on. Some modern reprints of the okay, here we go, are now heavily edited to remove the racially charged language. Okay, it seems reasonable enough. And with tongue planted firmly in cheek, a 2011 edition entitled The Hipster Huckleberry Finn replaces every usage of the N-word with the word hipster. Did someone actually publish this? That's kind of clever. Making for a very different kind of read. These modern edits are considered controversial in some quarters. Mark Twain himself was very much an anti-racist who helped to fund pioneering schools for African-American students. His book is an accurate reflection of the barbaric treatment of people of color in the 19th century, when racism was widely accepted, and some would argue that diluting the language robs the book of its power. This would be a bit like talking about the Holocaust, the slave trade, all of this stuff, and being like, I mean, just soften it up a little bit. Let's just replace million with thousand. Doesn't that make it easier to stomach? How about we just stomach it and realize that we were pieces of shit in the past, and that humans have done horrible shit to each other, continue to do horrible shit to each other, and read about it and learn from it. Isn't that something we're all capable of, rather than being like, oh yeah, no, that seems like a good word that I should use. Holocaust seems like a good idea. Can't we? Are we not that big brain? Are we really not? Sorry, I said I would sidestep the minefield. However, it could be argued that the original unedited version has no place on the modern school curriculum, unlike its predecessor, Tom Sawyer, which feels very much like, oh wait, am I thinking of Tom Sawyer? Which one is the kids' book? Maybe it's Tom Sawyer, which feels much more like a jolly adventure for children. Huckleberry Finn is a much more mature and challenging piece of work, which perhaps was never intended to be slotted in alongside Mother Goose in the school library in the first place. Why not just, didn't anyone ask Mark Twain, his publisher be like, so what age group is this for, Mark? Or Samuel. Is it for, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 6 to a young adult? Just tell us where it fits in, Sam, and we'll sort it out. It may have taken around 70 years for schools and libraries to start questioning the appropriateness of the frequent racial slurs in the original 1884 text, but the voyage of Huck Finn had already hit rocky waters shortly after it was first published. Louisa May Alcott, author of Little Women, noted upon the book's release that if Mr. Twain cannot think of something better to tell our pure-minded lads and lasses, he had best stop writing for them. Where someone sounds like a bit of a racist. I do not enjoy how anti-racist this book is. I don't like the fact that he brings up these things. It makes me uncomfortable about all the slaves I own. What the I mean, obviously, I'm not going to assume... Oh, God. that the Louisa May Alcott estate own, definitely not, allegedly, probably didn't own slaves. It's just a joke. I'm making it's a joke. Please don't sue me, Alcott estate. I've never heard of Little Women. I was thinking that whole time I was thinking of Pretty Woman, that movie with is it Richard Gere? I don't even know. Who cares? Let's move on. Oh my god, I'm getting in a lot of trouble today. Must be that Monday morning thing. This sounds like another common misunderstanding of Twain's intended audience for the book. Meanwhile, the Concord Public Library in Massachusetts immediately banned the book from its shelves as they felt it was coarse trash, which was more suited to the slums than to intelligent, respectable people. How about, who was it? Concord Public Library in Massachusetts. How about you don't think you're smarter and more knowledgeable about literature than Mark fucking Twain, okay? But perhaps the strangest ban to ever be slapped on the book was courtesy of the Brooklyn Public Libraries throughout the book in 1905 on the grounds of obscenity and bad word choice. How about you just repeat what I said about the other one? This had nothing to do with those frequent racial slurs, the obscenity. They were like, the only thing we really enjoy about that book is its heavy use of the N-word. And they said it the long way because it's 1905. The obscenity in question was the way that Huck Finn itched and scratched. Oh my god, I was just itching my neck right now, and I hadn't read that yet. What a wonderful coincidence and a fascinating tangent, Simon. I genuinely started recording this video being like, I'm going to try and make this one shorter because I'm hungry for my lunch. And somehow it's just off the rails. In commentary that's going to get me in trouble, no less, somehow. I don't know why, I don't know what, but someone will get upset because so many people watch. Someone's going to get upset for some reason. F you. The bad word choice was also Huck's fault, as he insisted on using the word sweat instead of the more refined perspire. Dude, the book's literally got 200 uses of the N-word. The librarian took the time to write to Mark Twain, informing the author of the reasoning behind his decision, and Mark Twain took the reply to compose a reply dripping in sarcasm, in which he recalls the trauma of being forced to read the Bible at a young age. He wrote, "None can do that and ever draw a clean, sweet breath again this side of the grave. If there is an unexpurgated Bible in your children's department, won't you please help remove Huck and Tom from that questionable companionship?" I'm pretty sure Huck, Tom, and Hipster Jim would have approved of that request. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary. If you only have time in your busy life to read just one book, may I heartily recommend the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Yeah, it's a brilliant storyline to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. It can feel a bit hard going in places, but it can also save you a ton of time in the long run. Once you've read the dictionary, you've pretty much read almost every book ever written. It's just that the others jumble it up a bit, so the words are in slightly different orders. Danny, I can't even bum chump of that one. That feels like that is a mega dad joke right there. I would know. I've got no idea how they get away with it. Of course, it can be a bit of a problem if you don't like reading strong or potentially offensive language. Oh my god, when I was a kid, you know how they have like the small dictionary, then they have the big dictionary, then they have the off massive dictionary. As a 12-year-old, there was nothing more enjoyable. You know, when you had like when the teacher didn't show up or whatever, you'd go sit in the school library for like an hour or 40 minutes, however long class was in the past. It was 40 minutes, 35 minutes, and then 5 minutes to get to your next class after the bell rang. We'd get that fat dictionary out and just look up fuck, and it would be like fuck off, fuck around, fuck up, all of this crazy shit, and then all of the other swear words as well, and all of the derivations thereof. It was a great time for a 12-year-old, which makes a very boring YouTube story. I apologize.
Yes, it's time to stop. No, this is not okay. It's time to stop. It's time to stop. I'm sorry, Mom.
In a way, the dictionary is the most potentially offensive book of all time, as it contains every single word in the language, even the ones you might not like. And this means that one of the most genuinely useful resources you could ever pick out from the school library is going to cause problems for parents who don't like the thought of their kids looking up rude words. And this is why those devilish dictionaries have been regularly hit with bans in schools and libraries across America the last half of the 20th century. Look, I did this. You know what? I didn't go home. I was like, hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I'm just going to go around a little bit before dinner. I didn't say that. Of course, I looked it up and I knew what it meant, but I didn't use it because my parents were like, don't swear. If I swore, my parents would be like, don't swear. And then I didn't swear. It's not on the library's. This is a parenting thing. Can you fuck off with your bans and all of this shit? Jesus Christ. Why? Aren't you into, what's that thing in, this is all America. Aren't you the ones who are like, freedom of speech is the bedrock of Americanness. Alex Jones deserves to be on YouTube. And it's like, okay, no. But also then, I don't understand America. I don't understand. America throughout the last half of the 20th century. Did I just read that as a sentence again? I swear to God I didn't smoke crack before making this episode, even though it appears that I might have. Maybe I accidentally smoked crack. One of the most recent examples occurred in 2010 when the Menifee Union School District reacted swiftly to the concerns of a parent over the new 10th edition of the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. The parent objected to what she described as a sexually graphic definition of the term oral sex. Look, lady, it's a definition of the term oral sex. What did you expect did you expect to use fucking metaphor? It's the dictionary.
She's not a Christian!
I actually thought the definition sounded pretty to the point. Oral stimulation of the genitals. It's not like the dictionary was running through a bullet point list of top tips. And it does make you wonder how the concerned parent came across the definition. I find it unlikely that she just stumbled across it while reading the dictionary from cover to cover, so I assume she must have been actively looking for oral sex. Not all parents agreed with the decision, with one father pondering to the press, what are they going to do next? Pull encyclopedias because they list parts of the human anatomy. And the outright ban was short-lived as the school district eventually decided to add the dictionary back to the classroom, but kids were only allowed to peruse it if they had signed permission slips from their parents. What is going on in the world? Jesus. But it's certainly far from an isolated case. Earlier in the 1980s and 90s, school administrators from across several US states banned the Merriam-Webster Dictionary on the grounds that they didn't like the slang definitions of appalling words such as bed, knockers, and balls. What the fuck's bed? Oh, like take to bed. Okay, Jesus, chill out, guys. What the And here's an interesting bonus fact, which was new to me. Whilst it's perfectly acceptable for prisoners in Michigan to hire a copy of Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler, they're absolutely forbidden to study most foreign language dictionaries. And the reason is that the state doesn't want the prisoners learning and communicating secretly in obscure languages which can't be understood by the staff. That's amazing. Ha! I really like that. I suppose that one kind of makes sense, really, but I would recommend that they add The Lord of the Rings to that banned list, otherwise every prisoner in Michigan will soon be secretly talking to each other in Elvish. Should also banning is boring.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
The Diary of a Young Girl. There's an argument that Anne Frank's diary should have never been published in the first place, at least not in some of the many forms it has been presented for public consumption since its first release in Amsterdam in 1947. After being gifted a personal diary for her 13th birthday, Anne Frank took the opportunity to chronicle her tragic experiences over the next 2 years as a member of a Jewish family hiding from persecution in a concealed room in the Nazi-occupied Netherlands. Thanks for the introduction, Danny. I had no idea who Anne Frank was. The family were finally apprehended by the Nazis and deported to concentration camps in 1944 before Anne succumbed to typhus in 1945 at the age of 15. Now published in over 70 languages and widely regarded as one of the most powerful books of the 20th century, there's still some controversy over whether The Diary of a Young Girl should have seen the light of day at all. The original version of Anne's diary was intended to be kept private, but she later started to rewrite and rework the content on loose paper after realizing that a wartime diary had the potential to be published and evolve into a historically important document. Anne's father, Otto, was the only surviving member of the family, and he later oversaw the posthumous publication of his daughter's diary, but the subsequent book, which has since sold over 30 million copies, was actually an edited combination of both versions of the diary, including some segments from the original private version that Anne had never intended to share. Not cool, Dad. Not cool, Dad.
I'm the cool dad. That's my thing.
This sounds a bit icky in many ways, and Otto was careful to remove any stuff that he didn't particularly like. For example, any entry that expressed critical comments about the rest of the family, the strained relationship of Anne's parents, and an entry in which Anne speculates that her father probably visited sex workers in Paris. Dude. Wait, how do we know about all of this? He edited it. Did like Anne Frank's diary director's cut come out later? But it was the 50th anniversary definitive edition it actually did. I can't believe it's not called Director's Cut, but Definitive Edition. There's a definitive edition of Anne Frank's diary? That's kind of up somehow. I don't know how, but it just is. Released in 1995, which ruffled the most feathers, as this included much more powerful stuff from the original private diary, including explicit segments in which young Anne documented her emerging sexual desires and explorations. Bro, come on. Please, no. Why?
That's no good.
It was for this reason that the definitive edition was banned in several US school districts, not because of any of the concerns over invasion of privacy, but simply because some schools felt that Anne's natural sexual awakening was bordering on the pornographic. We'll never know for sure if Anne would have approved of the release of any segment from her original private diary. I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable about the publication of the diary I kept when I was 13. No. Even if most of it would have been filled up with frenzied thoughts of my history teacher, Mrs. Harvey, falling down a haunted well. This is the thing, like, I'm sure, like, diaries of teenagers, it's just, like, innocuous and boring, but it's still so private. Like, everyone's, like, I'm sure looks there and is like, well, yeah, of course, she's a 13-year-old, or how, was she 13? No, Danny was 13. However old Anne Frank was. And it's just like, yeah, of course, this is, like, what teenagers think about. But it's still deeply embarrassing, if that's your teenage writing. However, it was reasons of a very different nature that prompted a ban on all editions of The Diary of a Young Girl in 1983 by the Alabama State Textbook Committee. They rejected the book for teaching in schools on the grounds that it was simply a real downer. Alabama be like, nothing is wrong in this state. Everything's great down here. Sorry. Anytime, I just can't, like, I just like to break out the southern accent. I don't know, I just like to. I'm sorry, I don't even, that was just unnecessarily offensive to, well, no, they did ban Anne Frank's book on the fact that it's a downer, so I think it's justified to make fun of that a little bit, right? Yeehaw. And that's a fair comment. It's all very well to let a young girl loose with pen and paper during the atrocities of a Holocaust, but you'd think she would have at least made more of an effort to come up with a happy ending. She died of typhus. Oh my god, in a concentration camp. And on that cheery note, that's where we end today's video. Thanks for watching. Please tell me there was a nude person drawn in, please. Please tell me there was a penis.
I know exactly what you're looking for. Is it a long, hard